Customer service is about knowing what works and what doesn't work.
So I would say number one is product knowledge, is understanding the key benefits and the great details of our product.
Yes, I think I totally agree with that. Knowing your product is so key, but even if you don't know your product, I think knowing your resources can be just as important. I can say, I don't know everything about everything. There's way too much to know, but I do know that I can always use the online as a resource, or I can go to my product information tabs to find the answer for a guest. And I think the key is not letting them see you sweat. If you know your stuff, you know your resources, you're going to be able to give great customer service.
Okay, so beyond product knowledge, what else works?
I think for me, being real, being me, Pottery Barn lets us really show who we are, and the guest really responds to that. For me, being real is probably 90% of what works for me.
I agree. I think part of being real, I feel like at Pottery Barn we're almost detectives at times. You know, we ask all those critical questions to find out what a customer wants or needs, and in that process we learn so much about them. And it's so much easier to make those connections when we're honest with ourselves. I find a lot of times that I relate to guests by saying what I have in my own home or what works best for me. And giving that piece of myself away is very real, it's very vulnerable, but it allows the guest to also do so, and it helps form those relationships.
I totally agree.
Okay, so what about selling?
I think number one, you have to have a desire to sell. And, you know, that sounds real simple to say, but do you come to work and do you find that the key to your feeling successful is having sold product that day? And for me, having a great sale, or you know, kind of giving someone else a high five about their great sale is really what it's all about. It's kind of my own personal pat on the back. So for me, I have a strong desire to sell, and that helps me to know when I've had a great day.
And I love that you say that, because as a scheduling manager, you know, I set up the metrics and the goals for everybody for the day. And something that I really, you know, really helps me is at the end of an associate shift when they're giving me the high five saying, I met my goal, I opened 3 cards today, and we have a celebration board. We make it exciting, and I think that does set the tone to have the desire and the want to do better tomorrow. And I think it's so important to come to work with the attitude, I want to top myself today. I want to do better today than I did yesterday, and that keeps us moving forward. It keeps us raising the bar, meeting it, and raising it again. And I think that's why we have such a successful team, is that desire to sell and to do better.
Exactly.
So what else works?
I think for me, it kind of goes back to being yourself, but I think being honest and working with integrity. I think that our guests really want our opinion, and for me, you know, that's easy to do because I love to give my own opinion. But I think guests can tell when you're honest. They can tell when you have integrity. Not only is it how you deliver your product knowledge, but it's also really telling them how you feel. You know, if you like something, really being honest and letting them know, you know, I do like that, or this is why I don't like that. A guest will really prefer that you be honest and have them leave maybe empty-handed this time, but next time they're going to come in and they know that you're going to give your honest opinion. And that's really what works for me.
I think that's a great point, and I think that when you are honest, you get a better result. You know, if you're honest with a guest and you say, wow, you know, I'm not sure if that blue and that red tonally are really going to work together in your space with your wall color, you know, they may disagree with you. They may say, you know, well, if you like it, let's try it anyway. But then they get home and it doesn't work, and you were honest. You didn't say, yes, that's going to look fabulous, and they get home and say, she didn't know what she was talking about. If you're honest and you give that honest feedback, you're going to get a better result in the end. And if you trust your own interior designer, it really does help you to be honest. And, you know, I would say it helps to be honest, but also look to that body language. Look to how they're receiving the information, because you don't want to come off as abrasive and say, I hate that idea. But at the same time, you don't want to say, ooh, I love everything that you're throwing out there. So just, yeah, I think that helps to be honest and to trust your own instincts.
I think we're all looking for the friend in the dressing room that tells us when something looks great and when something doesn't.
True.
Okay, so lastly, what else works?
I think for us, for both of us, we've kind of talked about it a little bit in the beginning part of this video, but really it's never letting the guest see you sweat. And that, it could be literal, but it could also be figurative. For us, that means really if you're in a panic, you don't want your guests to see that. If you're concerned, you don't want your guests to see that. So making sure that all your emotions are in check and making sure that the guest feels they're in good hands.
You know, that's true, and I think that one way that you can accomplish that is just always know you have friends around you. You have your manager, you have your coworker. There's always going to be somebody that has the information for you, so you don't have to be afraid if you don't know the answer. You're always going to have your team to fall back on, and that should give you the confidence, to Beth's point, to never let them see you sweat.
No deer in headlights.
Right. No.
Fake it until you make it.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, we've spoken about knowing what does work. Tell us a little bit about what does not work.
I have found that kind of coupling with what does work, being yourself, being genuine, being real, I think the biggest turnoff for our guests is encountering someone that's false, someone that doesn't present themselves in a way that really speaks to who they are. And so a guest can tell when you're just trying to sell something or when you're just trying to suggest. Now, for us, it's all about, you know, being real. And so when a guest encounters false, it just is the wrong way to go. So it just doesn't work. So be yourself, be true, and don't try to sell something that really isn't the right fit for the guest. False.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when you're not genuine with somebody, and to Beth's point, you're just telling them something they want to hear. They can feel it, they can tell, and you're not aligning or synchronizing with the other members on your team, because so many of us are very real people. You know, we're not afraid to show our personalities, maybe get a little silly sometimes. And so when you encounter somebody that's not that way, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. So I think it's really important to know your boundaries, to be professional, but also don't be afraid to be yourself and to have fun with the guests, because they love that experience. That's why they come here over other retailers, is because of the great customer service and the genuine people.
Exactly.
Okay, other than, you know, a sense of being false, what else do you find that just does not work?
I think for us, or for me specifically, is if you don't have confidence. A lack of confidence in both your presentation skills, even just the way you carry yourself. A confidence level really kind of instills trust in your guests that you know you're going to help them through this process. So really projecting confidence is kind of like making the other person feel comfortable. And so for me, not only am I confident in my delivery, but also in just my demeanor.
That's true, and I think body language plays so much into that. When you're confident and you know what you're talking about, you have your product information, you're not letting them see you sweat. When you have all those tools, you get that customer buy-in, and you can suggest things that now they're going to want to purchase from you that maybe they wouldn't have if you don't show that confidence. And body language such as the deer in headlights. They ask a question like, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Not really sure about that. You know, being confident is all about knowing that it's okay not to know and knowing where to go to get the answer. So yeah, confidence is key.
Not only when you're selling, confidence, when we talked about this, when your guest is returning something, letting them know that it's okay.
Yeah.
No problem. We've got just a level of confidence whether we're selling something or taking something back. Either way.
Okay, lastly,
I would say what doesn't work is when a sales associate or any member of our team doesn't realize how vital they are to the actual, the global picture. I think, sales associates think that all they're doing is selling, and it doesn't really mean much, but it means everything. So for me, knowing every day that my success is really the company's success, is the business success. So really knowing how important my role is to making, every day a success.
I totally agree with that. I think that, the typical Pottery Barn associate, whether you're a sales associate or a stock associate, you're a manager, everybody, it's like a machine, it's like a clock, and every piece works together to keep it going and to keep it flowing. And if you don't understand your role and how vital your role is, that can stop everything. It throws a wrench in the works. So I think not only knowing your roles and responsibilities, but being passionate about evolving the processes, going to a manager and saying, hey, this really isn't working for me. Let's create a tool or a resource to make this flow better. You really do need to invest in the company that you work for. And I think that makes the work environment so much more exciting when it's constantly evolving. And that's honestly, I think, what's so great about Pottery Barn is that we are asked to give feedback and to be a part of this huge machine, which is wonderful.
Fantastic, I agree.
okay, so we have talked about knowing what does work and what doesn't work, and what's your overall message?
For us, what inspired us wanting to talk about this today is really we had a great town hall meeting, and that kind of premise of going to the team and asking what works and what doesn't work, I think can only improve the overall team. And so for us, we just felt inspired by the town hall meeting to really give some tips and things that we do at our store that work for us and that might work for you. And that's really what this was inspired by.
Yeah, and I think for me, what I know about, I think probably 99% of people, nobody goes to work to fail. Everybody wants to feel empowered and successful, like they matter, like they make a difference in people's lives, which we do here. And hopefully some of the things we've highlighted are going to give you the tools and make you feel very confident and kind of know the next steps to take to make you just feel like you're the best in your role you can be. And we really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys and to welcome you to Green Valley and let us know what's working for us.